Hello and welcome to week 21. Yes, it's been 21 weeks since we've been working on launching our businesses. This is the place to start. And this week we're talking about the capacity to receive. Our scripture is from Second Kings, the fourth chapter. Now I'm going to read verses 3 and 4 because this is a familiar passage. Elisha said, "Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side." Now, this story, the widow, it seems like she had a resource problem. Her husband was dead. Her sons were about to be taken as slaves to settle a debt. She had nothing left in the house except a small jar of olive oil. Elisha's instructions did not address the debt. It did not provide the resources she needed. It did not solve the problem that was presenting to her at all. Instead, the instructions told her to go get containers, not a few, as many as she could find. Borrow them from every neighbor willing to lend them. Fill the house with empty vessels, and then shut the door and pour. The miracle did not happen until the containers were present. The oil multiplied to the exact capacity of what had been prepared to receive the oil. And when there were no more jars, the oil stopped flowing. Hear that again slowly, because it is one of the most practically instructive passages in Scripture for a founder who is believing God for provisions, for clients, for revenue and growth. The oil stopped when the containers ran out. The limitation was not on the supply side, it was on the capacity side. The miracle was bounded by the preparation. So I want to be direct, as you know I can be, and talk about this passage because it's often preached from that spiritual dimension without it being practically named for how we can use it in business. We are praying for clients and customers. We are believing for revenue. And you're asking God to open doors, to send referrals, and multiply what you have started. And my question to you today is the same one that Elisha's instructions imply. How many containers do you have ready? If a significant client reached out to you today, right now, before this video finishes, could you receive them professionally? Do you have your agreements ready to send, your payment methods set up to collect what they owe, an onboarding system to bring them on smoothly, and a delivery structure that you'll be able to fulfill what you promised them? Or would you be receiving that client today and have to scramble, have to apologize for the lack of a process, to um, come up with a payment collection method that feels improvised, and to promise a timeline that maybe you're not actually sure that you can deliver it because the infrastructure to hold that commitment has not yet been built? The oil does not flow into chaos. It flows into prepared containers. And the work of building your containers, the legal structure, the financial infrastructure, the delivery systems, all of your client facing processes is not separate from your faith. It is the expression of your faith. It is the practical demonstration that You believe what you are praying for is actually coming. So let me name the container specifically, because I think this widow's story um, can get lost when we stay in metaphor. In this, and for us as founders and leaders and entrepreneurs, the first container is your legal structure, whether that's your whether it's an LLC, a C corp, a S corp, a partnership, whatever your legal entity is, your registration, your tax ID number, the legal framework that allows your business to operate as a separate, protected entity capable of entering contracts and holding accounts and receiving payment in the name of the business rather than your personal name. Without it, you are not receiving as a business. You are receiving as an individual and with everything that entails for your personal liability and your tax situation. The second container is your financial infrastructure, that dedicated business bank account, a payment processing solution like Stripe or Square or PayPal or that kind of that equivalent, not Cash App and Venmo. You need a platform that allows clients to pay you through a professional channel. You need a simple invoice system, a way to receive money that does not require the client to ask you, so how do I pay you? And then listen to how you come up with an answer. No, that's not the situation that you want to be in. The third container is your agreement infrastructure. And we've talked about this, whether it's a service agreement or a contract template that you have prepared and it's ready to be sent and returned before the work begins. You want that documentation that defines what you are actually delivering and at what price and under what terms and with what protections for both parties. The container that makes the client relationship closer to a covenant rather than a conversation is the right container. The fourth container is your delivery infrastructure, the onboarding process, the communication protocol, your project management system. However simple, I'm not talking about an elaborate, complex system, but you have to have something that ensures that the client who just said yes has a clear and professional experience with you from the moment that they sign, the moment that they send you money, the moment that the work is done. Each of those steps that is done professionally, and it's a system that will always work. So the system that receives them well as the transaction. We want the way that you deliver what you promise to be as easy as it was for them to pay you. So these four containers are your minimal viable capacity to receive. Not eventually, before the referrals come, before the doors open, before the oil starts to flow, you have to have these containers in place. Because when it does, you will not have time to run out and build them. So I do want to push back on something that I'm hearing way too often in faith communities. And even in Christian marketplaces, I hear this. There's a version of faith that is suspicious of preparation. It worries that building the infrastructure before the miracle arrives is a failure of trust. That genuine faith waits for God to move before getting the containers ready. But that is not what Elisha instructed. He told the widow to go get the containers before the oil multiplied. The preparation that the widow did was the act of faith. Going to the neighbors, borrowing the jars, filling the house with empty vessels, that was what faith looked like in action. Not waiting to see if the oil appeared before deciding how many jars to go gather. The size of her preparation was a statement about the size of her expectation. Don't ask for just a few. Elisha's instruction implies that the number of containers she gathered would determine the scale of the miracle she received. Small preparation, small miracle. Large preparation, large miracle. And that is not a formula for manipulating God. It is a description of how preparation and provision actually interact. Your capacity to receive is proportional to the infrastructure you have built to hold what is coming. Building your business infrastructure is not a lack of faith. It is actually faith in action. It is going to the neighbors, it's gathering the jars, it's shutting the door and pouring before you have any visible evidence that the oil is about to multiply. And that's exactly what faith looks like when it's applied to a business. Consider the businesses who have received large orders because they did advanced marketing, but now have not prepared how to fill those orders. That's what we want to avoid. We want to prepare all the containers, and our delivery system is one of the main ones. So I do want to lean into that phrase that's part of Elisha's instructions that I think deserves our attention. Don't ask for just a few. There is a smallness of expectation that presents itself as humility, but it's actually faithlessness. It says, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to build more than I need right now. I'll get the infrastructure in place when I actually have clients to fill it. But the widow who borrowed just a few jars because she was trying to be realistic would have received just a few jars worth of provision. Your assignment is not small. This is not a side hustle. The God who gave this assignment to you is not a small God. And the infrastructure that you build to receive what he is about to send should not be small either. Build the containers with the same scale of expectation you carry in your prayers. Not arrogantly, not presumptuously, but with the genuine belief that what you are believing for is real and it is coming. And when it arrives, you will be ready to hold it. Do not ask for just a few. So this week, I want you to think about if your, most significant answered prayer for your business arrived in your business today. The big client, the major contract, the partnership that you've been believing for, if those came through, could your current infrastructure receive it professionally and execute it excellently? Walk through the four containers honestly. Walk through your legal structure, which you should have by now, your financial infrastructures, which you should have those pieces together by now, and your agreement infrastructure, even if it's just simple. And how are you going to deliver what you've promised? Which one of these containers are built and which ones are not? And be honest, that gap between what you're praying for and what you're prepared to receive, is the work that this week's assignment is asking you to do. Also, are you ready? Ask yourself, am I building my business infrastructure to match the size of my expectation? Or am I preparing for something smaller than what I'm actually believing for? This is a question about alignment between your faith and your preparation. If you are praying for 10 clients, but your system can only handle 2 without chaos, your preparation is telling on your expectation. What would it look like to build the infrastructure to match the scale of what you are actually believing God for? The oil flows to the measure of the containers you prepare. Build them with the same boldness that you bring to your prayer life. Don't ask for just a few. So I want to know what your gaps are. This is a time for us to work through things together. So which of the 4 containers are the ones that you've been putting off building? Hit me up in the comments and let me know. And if there's something that I can help you with, reach out. I'm happy to do so. And before I go, I do want to share 2 quick tips with you from my Executive Council Corner. Tip number 1, and I know you think that I beat this drum a lot, but it's so important. The infrastructure to receive revenue professionally requires 4 things to be in place before you take that first sale, not after. The first thing is that dedicated business bank account in your business entity's name. This establishes the financial separation that protects your personal assets from your business assets. And it also satisfies the legal requirements that courts look for in disputes. And so we want to be prepared for that. Secondly, your payment processing solution, whether it's Stripe or Square or PayPal Business, but there are a lot of platforms that you can use for processing payments. The main thing is that you want something that allows clients to pay by a bank card or by a bank transfer through a professional channel that's linked to your business bank account. Thirdly, you do need to have a simple invoice template that's on your business letterhead that itemizes what is being charged, when it's due, and how to pay it. And then the 4th thing is you want to have your service agreement signed before any work begins. These 4 components together constitute your minimum viable financial infrastructure. And we've been covering this, but it's time to get it done. We're in week 21. So a client who encounters all 4 of these infrastructure pieces in their first interaction with your business experiences a business that is ready to serve them, which builds the confidence that converts that first engagement into a long-term relationship. So set this up now. And the second tip I want to leave you with is the capacity to receive investments, to receive partnerships, to receive significant contracts requires a clean business profile that most early stage founders have not yet assembled, but that's okay. We're going to work on it. The minimal components of that profile is, again, a current entity registration that's in good standing in your state, a business bank account that has at least 3 to 6 months of transaction history, a one-pager on your company that gives an overview that clearly describes what you do, who you serve, and what your track record looks like. And a professional business email address tied to your domain rather than a personal Gmail or Yahoo account. These are not impressive credentials. This is not for you to look, like you got it together, but they are the basic components of a professional life. The absence of these things communicate that the business is not yet operating at the level that the opportunities that you want require. There are some places that you cannot even register for unless you have a business email address. So the presence of having these containers ready communicates that you are ready. So assemble them now while the stakes are low, while it's still relatively quiet, while you don't have an urgent timeline, so that when that opportunity that's really significant does arrive, your answer as to whether you are ready is yes, I am ready. Now, you won't have to say, give me a couple of days, a couple of weeks to get things together. You'll already be prepared. So those are my two tips for this week. Get uh, your professional business financial infrastructure together and prepare your professional business profile now so that all of those places are in place and you'll be ready to receive what God is preparing to send. All right, so I hope that helps you this week. We are marching through this year, and so we're making great strides. So next week, we're going to talk about protecting your ideas. So get ready for that by doing your assignment and getting your containers ready this week. See you next week.